Humans had never been carnivores. This is kind of a ridiculous idea that people have come up with. Hey, everybody, I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And I want to make a couple of points clear. Number one, I'm not a vegan. Number two, I am not against eating animal products. Number three, I am not going to commit an appeal to nature fallacy here and say that because we ate a certain way that it must be the best for health. If the data came out showing that eating exclusively a diet of only red meat and butter produced the best longevity and health, and the evidence for this was overwhelming, it would make sense to do that, even if historically, for 65 million years, humans ate only plants. Okay, so we need to be clear on this. I'm not going to make an appeal to nature. Okay. However, I will state I do generally promote a largely plant-based diet, but I think that animal proteins are superior for muscle gaining, hypertrophy, body composition, all that. So I personally generally advocate an omnivore diet that's heavily plant-based for purposes of health and fitness. So just a context there of my position, and my position is the mainstream one that is supported by the overwhelming majority of researchers, experts, medical doctors, dietitians, all of that. So it's not really even a controversial position. So all of that being said, people love to make these arguments about ancient humans, and the fact of the matter is they're not even accurate. One of the more recent ones, people bring up some stuff, and they'll probably be in the comments later. I'm sure some people will not listen to the video, and they will say, but we saw some stuff that says ancient humans, quote unquote humans, right, were super carnivores, and ate almost everything around them into extinction at one time up in certain areas. Okay, but what does it have to do with humans? By humans, I'm talking about Homo sapiens. Okay, what you and I would recognize, even if out in the wild, all furry and hair covered, and if they didn't have clothes, even a wild human that we would still recognize as a human. With our general cognitive ability to speak, right? All those sort of things, right? Biologically human, Homo sapien, that is what I'm talking about. That is not what species they were talking about. When that super carnivore thing gets brought up, they were talking about Homo erectus. And when we look at that, here's my position. Because another species over 1 million years ago was a super carnivore, you believe that you should be a carnivore is actually insane. So you want to be like this species. Their intelligence and brain capacity was too low for speech. Okay, we know based upon the fossil records, they probably didn't have speech centers in their brain. They were not capable of speech. They were not capable of being taught speech. So if you caught one of these today, if they existed, and tried to teach it to talk, it wouldn't even be able to do so. It would be functioning at an intellectual capacity much, much lower than your child. Okay? It would be functioning at a lower mental capacity than anyone who has fairly reasonable learning disabilities, things like that. It's not as intelligent as they are. Okay, so you need a context for that. Number two, this species didn't live a super long time. So if your argument, they seem to be healthy enough to, they lived about 30 years old. So if your goal is to be a species that's dying around age 30 and too stupid to actually speak, this is the basis of your argument. That because that species ate that way, that it must be appropriate for you. I'm sorry, that's stupid. And that was not our species. It is not something that you would personally recognize as human. Okay? You would see something like that as more of an ape-like creature. People bring up Neanderthals. Neanderthals did eat more meat than we did. They also died out. They're also a different species, although they didn't appear to fully die out. That is a point of contention. Obviously, there is some Neanderthal DNA in modern humans. It's a very small amount. There was a little bit of crossbreeding apparently at some points in certain regions of the world, more so than others. But by and large, this is a species that died out, but it's still not us. So then we get into the topic of Paleolithic humans, pre-agricultural humans. Okay. All right. What's the newest data on those show? They actually ate, interestingly enough, very similar in terms of the ratios to what I would advocate. And I'm not saying it's because it's the natural way to eat. It just appears to be pretty decent. The records show that Paleolithic humans ate plenty of carbohydrates. They ate a diet that was approximately, and it varied around the world, but what we're seeing with a lot of the records, what we can find, in the ballpark of around 80% plants, 20% animals. Okay? Now, that animal doesn't always mean that you're thinking of, oh, they went and hunted woolly mammoths or whatever. No, that's bugs, fish, all sorts of stuff. They all ate grains, you know. People make that argument with pre-agricultural humans because we grow more grains now. They didn't have that. They ate them. Their diets were carbohydrate-based. When we look at the data that we have, again, let's be clear. When we look at the data that we have of all those ancient humans and even hunter-gatherer tribes, 50%, more than 50% of their calories tended to come from carbohydrate throughout the year on average. Okay. The only societies that we're seeing with the ultra-high fat, for example, are like the Inuits, because that's what's available. There's less plants growing in the Arctic. It's frozen all the time. There's less plants. And a lot of the animals are marine animals, seals, whales, and stuff like that. They're hunting, have more fat to deal with the cold. But that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Okay, and keeping in mind, I've done videos discussing they were not particularly healthy or long-lived when you compare to other hunter-gatherer tribes. Okay, so even this idea that hunter-gatherers ate mostly meat is not accurate. Berries, seeds, root vegetables, tubers, grains, whatever they could find. And then when they could get meat, they obviously ate it. We're opportunistic cook omnivores, right? We always when we could get the animal protein, we have tended to do so. But it's never been the biggest staple in our diets, at least not for the majority of us or the majority of our ancestors, unless you happen to be descended from the Eskimos. It's probably not the case, guys. It's just not reality. Hey, there's a lot of work involved with hunting big game with more primitive equipment. There's risk, there's work. It's a lot more to it than you would think. They're not out just doing it all day, all the time. It was not a sustainable food source for us compared to starches. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.